everybody! It is Monday! Who's joining us tonight? Hello, Jennifer, Angela. Great to have you with us. Bailey. Bailey, I heard you were away. What is it with this rumor that you were away? Lisa's with us. Scott. Cheers to you, Scott. Good to see you. Karen, happy Monday. Happy Monday. Dennis is with us. You're back from your 3-day getaway, Bailey? I heard you were on vacation. Hey, Adele and Dazzle have joined the program. Good to have everybody with us on this Monday. All right, Scott with the martini glass. National Martini Day was last week, but still very important. We are having a gin shortage in our house, Scott, so we do need more. Actually, we're about to have an everything shortage, but gin, scotch. A little camping trip. That's not the way Joni made it sound. Joni made it sound like you guys got a good getaway. She got to work and get the grandkids. Lisa's with us. Great to have you, Lisa. I'm just saying, Joni said that Joni made it sound like you were on this elaborate 5-star getaway. That could be camping to you, but that's not the way she made it sound. Or maybe she's taking in other people's grandkids. How is everybody's Monday? What are we grateful for this Monday? That is what we want to talk about. What are we grateful for on this Monday? Nebraska Angie is with us. See, there was wine involved, Bailey. The wine is what made you forget. So you got camping last week at a 5-star resort, and this weekend you got a wine event. We want to live like Bailey. Oh, great to have you with us, Krita. So much wine. Oh, now we're feeling even worse for you, Bailey. Karen had 2 days off. Whoa, what's that like? What is that like, Karen? Hey, Leanne, cheers to you. Good to have everybody with us. But 2 days off is a good thing, Karen. We technically had time not in the store yesterday. Off, not so much, but not in the store, and that's good. That's very good. It's all good though, Bailey. I think Joni's still down with it. She's ready for your next thing, wherever you're headed, Vegas, Tahoe, whatever thing, wherever you're headed next weekend, she's got you covered. Grateful for a great weekend. That's good, Lisa. See, this is what I'm talking about. We have a lot to be grateful for in this group. A lot to be grateful for. Today would have been my mother's 82nd birthday. 82 she would have been today. She's that picture I show up whenever I'm doing speaking. Whenever you've seen me speak at an arts event, she's that first picture I put up there. Hey, Suki, great to have you with us. And, hey, Kelly, it's okay. It's okay. You're good. What are you doing? Hitting refresh on your bank balance to see if that's updated yet? If it didn't update, tomorrow. Jen's business is picking up. I like that. That's very good. Yeah, I'm missing Charlotte too, but we will meet again in person. I'm excited about our virtual conference. We will meet again in person, and at some point here, I'm going to get allowed to get out on the road again. And I don't know what kind of road tour, but I think it's going to pass through North Carolina. So we'll keep an eye on that, Scott. You never know. You never quite know where my car will travel, but it's gonna make a southern trip, and to go south, I got to go through North Carolina. Only twice today, Kelly. My guess is tomorrow. Tomorrow's my guess is when you wake up. Hey, kitty. Pat in the Peanut Gallery says the month of June is going very well. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. We haven't even been open the whole month of June, and I would agree with that, Pat. We weren't allowed that. We were allowed today. Today in Massachusetts, we were allowed fitting rooms by appointment today. So when you wanted a fitting room, we asked if you'd like to make an appointment for a fitting room. And voila, that appointment slot immediately, seconds later, was available. Complying with the governor's order, we're keeping a log of our appointments. Good to know that I'm always welcome in your neck of the woods, Scott. I appreciate that. Yes, I am game. I am itching to get on the road. I am, but I miss that. You've now beat last June. That's very good, Kitty. We're trending right up there with last June, and we haven't even been open the whole month. We are, I think, 83%, 84% of last June through the 20th, and we weren't we're down a week or something like that in days, and are open less hours. And last June we were up 35%, so I'm okay with that. That is awesome, Pamela. That is a terrific grant. I'm glad you were able to take advantage of that grant. One thing to keep in mind with that, Pamela, is I've advised all my grant recipients, and I am so excited on the blessing that those grants are providing because they don't have to be paid back. So one thing to keep in mind with that grant is in most cases, come January, you will get a 1099 for that. For taxes, okay? Now, granted, income will be sparse with being closed for months this year, but it will be likely taxable income at the federal level. Just something to keep in mind, so that you're not shocked in January if you get a 1099. Some of the grants are exempt from state income tax. But most of them are not exempt from federal. So I just want that to be in the back of your mind. But it's an incredible gift regardless because it doesn't have to be paid back. So just something to keep in the back of your mind. But that is great. We have a lot of good stuff happening this Monday. It is a very good Monday. Very good Monday. And we start every night with the Good Morning, Good Night book. This is how we get this program started, is we start with the Good Morning, Good Night book. And let's see what page we open up to tonight. Now, Kelly, not to confuse you, so there's grants, okay? If you get a grant from a agency in your state or the town in your state or some other thing, that could be taxed at the federal level. So the money for the EIDL or the PPP is not taxed as income. But but some of these grants, some of the people got red backpack grants. There's been all sorts of various grants that different agencies have been giving out. But those could be taxable income. from the other things. So just something to keep in mind. There's always the tax man out there. Tonight, we're going to page 128. Good morning. Your worst fears about yourself only need a drop of attention and sunlight to grow quick and wreck your whole shit. Clear away the weeds. Take time to harvest your strengths and your joys. Water and sunlight to the best in you. And that is our good morning tonight. Whew. Our good morning tonight. Let's see where we could use some everyday courage on my mother's birthday. I like this. There's Nebraska Angie will like this. Feel the fear and do it anyway. Okay, that is our Everyday Courage, the book that Vina got us. Vina sent us this book for Everyday Courage, and she needs some tonight too, at the loss of her brother, who just passed. I'm sorry to hear about that. Let's see what we got happening in the world. Yes, they do. This book has been a blessing. Remember when we were doing Dr. Seuss, Kelly? I mean, in the early days of this, when I was doing Dr. Seuss and rhyming, well, I think we've come a long way with the Good Morning, Good Night book. Okay, what's happening in the world? No testers, no problem. Ulta and Sephora have a new take on try before you buy. Makeup sellers Ulta Beauty and Sephora have a problem on their hands. When it comes to beauty products, consumers love to test cosmetics, creams, and fragrances on themselves before they buy them. But that's not really an option right now, given the current health and safety concerns tied to the pandemic. That's bad news for cosmetic sellers who've already suffered double-digit percentage sales declines in the first quarter because of store closures and the no makeup, work from home look that consumers have embraced amid the shutdown. They're now under pressure to somehow replicate the in-store sampling experience in a convincing way for consumers to reinvigorate sales. Ulta, which has over 200 stores in the U.S., has a game plan. It's called Glam Lab. Ulta's virtual makeup try-on app that offers access to more than 4,000 items. We know how much fun it can be to discover to try on the right items on your own, but safety is paramount right now. Ulta's Beauty's Chief Digital Officer. With the app, you can take a selfie or use a live shot of yourself to digitally try on a shade of lipstick, eyebrows, eyeshadow, or even digitally sample a particular brand of mascara or eyeliner. Glam Lab usage has increased by 5 times in the pandemic, and we've seen 19 million shades tried on in the post-COVID-19 environment, and that's significant. We're continuing to grow the Glam Lab experience as we reopen our stores. New on the app, which launched in 2016, is a virtual hair color and eyelash try-on feature, for instance. I may have to get that. In addition to the app, Ulta, which expects to have all its stores open by the end of June, is introducing virtual beauty advisors to answer customer questions about the products. Similarly, Sephora, which also offers a virtual try-on experience and tutorials through its app, sent an email that its beauty advisors will be available to help customers via in-store demonstrations. Both of them already pop product samples into bags at checkout and will continue to offer that perk. There's no doubt that the coronavirus has significantly challenged the ability of brands to offer the full experience the shoppers get in store, and moved the industry away from high touch to low touch. The new normal for retailers will be to work with shoppers in a hands-free way to help them find what they need while also giving them space to feel comfortable. It's interesting, but these brands are making a comeback. They will. My brother-in-law actually works for one of the major fragrance firms. Okay, one of the high-end fragrance firms. That's how I get all my high-end fragrances, is because I'm probably too frugal to pay for them. But he represents brands like Versace, and what's the other brand he represents? Well, we'll go with Versace. I know that one because that's what I spritz with. How's that? I spritz. But they've started calling all of them back to work, and he actually is the one selling to the department stores. So the fact that they feel like their business is coming back and calling them back to work is a good sign for department stores and for the industry at large. Hey, Marianne, loved the pictures of Little Missy's parade. Loved it. Loved seeing Little Missy out there for her 90th birthday, which is actually tomorrow, the day after my mother's. Hopefully, Little Missy got the package I sent her. Just think the world of her. And I just think it's funny that her birthday is the day after my own mother's. And yes, Angie, fearless. Coronavirus changed everything except TJ Maxx. While many retailers pivot for a post-coronavirus future, discount chain doubles down on stores. Nothing will change. The pandemic ushered in a surge in online shopping, and most retailers are scrambling to adapt, but not TJ Maxx. The discount chain isn't looking to quickly ramp up e-commerce beyond its minuscule level or add a new feature allowing American customers to buy products online and pick them up in stores. It stopped taking online orders during the lockdown, and even now is limiting the number of items for sale on its website. It's betting on the store, and there's a lot to be learned from that. Oh, if you haven't gotten it, Marianne, you'll probably get it tomorrow. You'll know it's from me. It's not pink like yours, but you'll know it's from me. Whatever it comes. I sent it to the store. Burberry will scrap its traditional September fashion shows and instead run outdoor streamed versions with no guests. Burberry announced Monday that it will stage an outdoor runway show this September. The show will be recorded and streamed live. The company is the first of the major brands to confirm its plans for the September fashion weeks. They're taking their show to the great outdoors. The British luxury fashion house is the first one of the major brands to confirm its plans for September's fashion week. It said it would present its spring and summer 2021 collection on September 17th in an outdoor fashion show that will only be attended by the models and its own team. The show will be recorded and available to stream live. The Burberry knows that the world wants to reconnect again, and the show will celebrate these feelings. And their theme is the beautiful natural landscape of Britain. As humans, we've always had a deep affinity to nature. We've had to respect and rely upon its power for our very existence, while marveling and reveling in its extraordinary beauty. Traditional shows could return in the future, but need to be reimagined for the world we live in now. There's nothing like the experience of being at a fashion show. The energy in the room, the anticipation, the excitement. But we must recognize that the world is changing, and we must adapt and redefine our landscape through new forms of expression. Ultimately, to me, it'll always be important to keep a physicality to fashion, to be able to see and understand the texture and movement of clothes. But in new ways, they added. Hang on a second here. I didn't have time to get organized. When one door opens, 11 close. Apple last week. We'll have 200 stores open this week. Apple last Friday. Make that 189. After new COVID cases spiked in Florida, the Carolinas, and Arizona, Apple decided to close 11 recently opened stores across those states this week. The retail chief of Apple said in a letter that reclosures are a possibility in areas where COVID-19 cases spike again. In the meantime, employees and customers at other reopened stores are still required to wear masks and check their temperature. Apple shares fell Friday following the announcement, but closures hit different at Apple. Only around 8% of its $260 billion in annual sales come from its in real-life stores. That's not the norm. Without physical locations open, overall retail earnings declined 70% in quarter one and are on track to shrink another 45% in quarter two, according to retail metrics. Brands adjusted with curbside pickup and online promotions, but they didn't make up for lost foot traffic. The takeaway here is retailers that were forced to close in March will be more reluctant than Apple to close this time around, but with corona cases peaking in some areas, they may not have a choice. Stay tuned. Malls in New Jersey are to reopen on June 29th. Hey, Joanne and Cheryl and Deanne. New Jersey residents will be able to return to the state's malls on June 29th through though a nice dinner and movie remains out of the question. Retail businesses located inside malls will be able to reopen that Monday, but restaurants, bars, and any other stores with liquor license will be limited to operating via takeout and delivery. Such establishments with separate outdoor entries to their properties had already been approved for 50% indoor seating. Other businesses with indoor entry only that cannot open on the 29th include gyms, fitness center, movie theaters, amusement parks, water parks, and arcades. Certainly, malls are part of New Jersey's culture and lure. Who knew New Jersey had a lure? So we want these businesses to get back up and running responsibly and safely. New Jersey is the most densely populated state in the Union and has some of the most noted malls in the land. Among them, the Bergen Mall, the Garden State Plaza, and the Cherry Hill Mall. Hiring rose in 46 states in May, yet the jobless rate is still high. Employers added jobs in 46 states last month, evidence that the U.S. economy's surprising hiring gain in May was spread broadly across the country, in both states that began reopening their economies early and those that did so only later. Unemployment rates fell in 38 states, rose in 3, and were largely unchanged in 9, the Labor Department said. The disparities range from Nevada with the highest rate, 25.3, Hawaii 22.6, and Michigan 21.2, to Nebraska with only 5.2%, and Utah 8.5. The overall U.S. unemployment rate in May was still high, 13.3, a decline from 14.7 in April. As a whole, the figures illustrate the unusually broad nature of the recession, with all states enduring unemployment rates that soared in April as the coronavirus forced business closures and then gradually fell in May, but remained painfully high. During the 2008-2009 Great Recession, by contrast, some Midwestern states like Iowa and North Dakota managed to avoid high unemployment. Yet this time in May, Iowa's unemployment rate was 10% and North Dakota at 9.1%. At the same time, the viral outbreak has sharpened disparities among the states, with Nevada with its hard-hit tourism industry and Michigan's heavily affected auto job cuts reporting jobless rates more than double the rates in states like Utah and Wyoming. The virus and accompanying shutdowns has devastated most states' economies. Last month, 4 states recorded their highest unemployment rates on records, dating to 1976, at 16.3%. Delaware 15.8, Florida 14.5, and Minnesota 9.9. But the data also indicates that the government's PPP program helped spur more hiring. Policies that benefit states similarly lifted all boats. Even in Nevada, but there were some signs of life, where the state gained nearly 33,000 jobs last month. So, there's things happening. There's good. Hey, Suzanne and MJ. And Suzanne and Nancy. Hey, it's all good, people. Late, early, it doesn't matter. Just glad to have you here. Glad to see you tune in. I know a lot of people watch the replay. The stats on your guys' viewing is really kind of crazy. Nothing personal, just kind of crazy. And when you listen to me, some of you listen to me in the middle of the night, some of you watch me in early morning. I mean, it's really kind of crazy. You tell me about it. I try to turn me off, but hey, what can I say? Google targets Pinterest with a new app. Google is offering a digital home for long-term interests. Area 120, Google's workshop for experimental projects, is launching Keen, a web and Android app that enables users to identify their interests and curate relevant digital content from the web and other Keen users. When users identify an interest on the app, they create a Keen, which lets them curate content, share their collection with others, and find new content based on what they've saved. Keens can be on any topic and be private or public. For every Keen, Google applies its search functionality and machine learning technology to automatically find content related to a user's interest. The more a user saves to a Keen and organizes it, the better the recommendations become. Specific activities Keen users can engage in include saving interesting gems or links that they find helpful. Google says these bits of content act like seeds and help Keen discover more and more related content over time. Users can also follow Keens that others have created and receive alerts when new things are added. Keen isn't intended to be a place to spend endless hours browsing, said the co-founder of the Keen project, announcing the app. Instead, it's a home for your interests, a place to grow them, share them with loved ones, and find things that will help in making their precious life count. Currently, Keen offers no e-commerce capabilities. However, the same was true of Pinterest when it initially launched in 2010. Wow, Pinterest, 2010. Yes. See, the peanut gallery is already looking into it. Ikea launches digital platform to showcase home design experiments. Ikea's R&D lab is giving customers an online sneak peek into the future of home design. Space 10, the research and design subsidiary of Ikea, is launching a new web-based platform called everydayexperiments.com. The platform presents a series of digital experiments from third-party technology and design studios that explore new ways of how consumers interact with their living spaces. The experiments focus on emerging technology areas such as artificial intelligence, machine learning, augmented reality, and spatial intelligence. Experiments include using a mobile device as a tool to experience how sound moves around a space, turning furniture into virtual living creatures for children's enjoyment, and controlling what spatiality-aware devices can sense and process in a home while also respecting consumer privacy. The collaborative experiments have been developed with the intention to create a better everyday life at home. I don't know about that with the kids thing. I think it's going to scare them. Look, they added eyes and a mouth to this couch. I don't know. If I were a kid, it might scare me now. Home, especially these days, plays an important role in how we develop our everyday interactions and relationships. It is not only the place where we live, but the place where we work, teach our children, and where we connect with the world digitally. We believe the more we learn about the next curve of design and technological innovations, the more we can help people to make tomorrow's life at home and with each other even better. Everydayexperiments.com is initially launching in collaboration with participating studios and designers Backen and Bake, Field, Random Studio, Mam's Machine, Philip Price Hennigan, Stromlin, Set Snail, Alonzo Holmes, and Timi Oyedeji, or something close to that, we'll say. Hey, Joe, great to have you with us. Cheers. See what else I got here. this is talking about retail as a whole. Retailers survived the pandemic closures on borrowed money. Can they pay it back? Revolver draws, bond issues, deferred rent, and vendor payments. The industry racked up a slew of new liabilities because of the pandemic. L Brands was one of the first in line for cash. On March 17th, the day it closed its entire store fleet, the owner of Victoria's Secret and Bath & Body Works said that the day before, it took down nearly $1 billion from its revolving credit line, out of an abundance of caution and as a proactive measure. The move left the company with $2 billion in cash as it closed all its stores. Many others followed. It wasn't just retail. Pretty much every company, whether it be a tech company, education, energy, if they had the ability to draw on the revolving credit line, they did. It was across the board. Apparel retail as an industry drew down $7.2 billion from revolver credit lines during the closures, mostly in March. Specialty retailers drew an additional $5.4 billion. The department store sector drew $5.1 billion. Online and direct-to-consumer retailers drew down $2.3 billion. Home good retailers drew down $1.7 billion, and electronic retailers another $1.5 billion. With the pandemic winding its way through the country and financial markets in free fall, it was simply the prudent or cautious thing to do. Companies across sectors collectively drew down $252 billion, or $250 billion, from the revolving credit lines between March 5th and April 30th. Later, many retailers that could also issue new bonds did so. They also negotiated where they could deferments on their rents, stretched out their payments to vendors too. All of these moves fell under the simple goal of raising and preserving cash, something I have said since the beginning, to stay afloat while their stores were closed. Obviously, all of these obligations have to be paid back someday. The retail world has been a harsh place for heavily indebted companies over the past 4 years. Now, retailers across the board have new liabilities taken out of necessity during the closure period, and they're headed into a world of uncertain demand for their products as the coronavirus continues its spread. The closures represent one of the reasons businesses keep revolving loans and credit lines in their financial toolkits. Typically, retailers use asset-based loan facilities to manage the seasonal swings in cash flows and inventory purchases, though they can be used for all manner of spending, store investments, payroll expenses, leveraged buyouts, and so on. And they're there for emergencies, unplanned capital needs, or cash shortfalls. Among those who drew down on their credit lines are those facing Ascensa, RTW Retail Wins, J. Jill, Francesca, Tailored Brands, and others. While people viewed them as positive when they happened, the first risk we're looking at was liquidity. What was their cash flow burn? What cash flow sources does each issuer have, and do they have the liquidity to get through the shock of the shutdown? Despite the fact that it increased their leverage, we looked at it more in terms of liquidity. If you don't have the cash, if you can't pay your bills, you have a bigger problem than high leverage. Use of credit lines rose 1,020 basis points in the first quarter compared to the fourth quarter 2019, and rose 590 basis points year over year. And it's still viewed as a defensive measure. Again, it's about survival, okay? Can't be the best store of any kind, specialty retail, department store, anything, if you're not still in business. And as the pandemic shifted to unheard things, having cash was a way around it. But there also needs to be a road to repayment. In the best case version of the future, retail sales rebound consistently throughout the year, bringing cash in down their credit draws, make interest on the new bonds they issued, and make rent and vendor payments to keep those crucial relationships running smoothly. So, cash management moving forward is going to be critical, as it has been during this entire thing, and really is always. There's a reason they say cash is king. Hey Sylvia, great to have you with us. I like this this next segment I'm going to cover with you. I thought was a really good story of why we need to maximize the customer that makes the effort to come into our stores. Think about how much effort it takes for you to get out of your house, get in your car, and drive to a store. It's a considered purchase. You don't do it on a whim. While shoppers might be looking for one particular product, they're always open to discovering something new. That is the power of brick and mortar retail. If they just needed something, they would have gone online to buy just it. When they do make the journey, and it is a journey to your store, especially if they have kids and everything else, it's the journey. They are committed shoppers. It is your failure if you don't make the sale, not theirs. And now that more than ever, you cannot afford any failures. That's why selling must be a renewed part of your retail sales strategy. Think about that. Think about that. It is a choice to come into your store. It is a journey, okay? It is about more than one item, more than one tchotchke. It is about the experience. It is about how your store makes them feel. It is about how you fulfill for them, okay? That is a choice when they choose to leave the safety of their home, their castle. Just keep that in mind, okay? No trip out right now should be taken for granted. Exactly, Suki. Hang on one second here. I didn't read this one. I just want to glance. So, here's an interesting look at the PPP. It is their therapy, Mandy. It is. They find comfort in our stores. They find safety in our stores. But we shouldn't take that for granted either. Okay? So when they come there, we should be there to help fulfill their needs. Okay? In any number of ways. Okay, and have a good store that's not just there to take an order, but to be the servant to the customer and be there for them to fulfill their needs. Exactly, Kelly. I thought that was terrific. So parts of this I like that I'm going to share with you next, this is an article discussing the advantages of 8 weeks versus 24 weeks for the PPP. We are up on our 8 weeks right now, and that was part of the work that I did yesterday, is just making sure that I had all my I's and T's crossed for our final payroll of the 8 weeks, because I want to get this closed out, and I had that plan prior to glancing at this article, but this has some truth in it. Why we use an 8-week versus 24-week? The loan should be forgiven faster because the application can be filed, in theory, immediately after the 8-week period, as opposed to waiting until the end of the 24-week period, or whatever longer period might apply, keeping in mind that as of right now, it's either an 8 or a 24. If you're done at week 15, it isn't certain that you'll be able to apply at week 15, or you'll have to wait for week 24. It'll be easier for many borrowers to maintain the staffing requirements of it on an 8-week period than on a longer period. Although I quite honestly believe the staffing for most people and everyone that I've talked to is going to be easier whichever way this falls. This next part is key, though. Applying earlier allows the borrower to use the SBA rules and interpretations that apply at the time the application for forgiveness was filed. These rules have developed in an unpredictable and often anti-borrower manner. So a borrower that is able to have most or all of the PP loan forgiven will be well advised to file sooner rather than later to get this out of the way. I think the rules have gotten ultimately better over time, but it is haphazard. I think come post July 4th, they're going to be fairly locked because the big banks are really pushing on the Treasury and SBA before they actually open up their forms for forgiveness to have this locked down so that they're not playing games with it. Borrowers who maintain lines of credit or get subsequent loans may be impeded. Okay, think about this. If you have a line of credit, because I've talked about this before too, and we talk about cash is king and everything else, but I've also, had conversations with many of you who've wanted to pay off, use the idle proceeds to pay off other loans. And I've cautioned against that, again, partially because cash is king, and partially because if you pay off those things, your credit lines may not become available again. And here it talks about lenders, okay, may be impeded, okay? So borrowers may be impeded from getting other loans or accessing their line of credit if their lenders are worried about forgiveness and until the forgiveness is done and been blessed by the SBA. Because you can't be sure that it absolutely will be forgiven until then. Okay, because there's so many different ways that it could go sideways in a technical perspective. If you're doing traditional lending, okay, if you're using a traditional, or if you have a line of credit that traditionally renews every year, they're going to take into account your PPP loan as an open line until it is forgiven. It's not forgiven until it's forgiven. So don't forget that. I thought that was an important thing. The other thing that is still uncertain, although I think this will be allowed through a withdrawal of your forgiveness application, is if for some reason your 8-week application is declined by the SBA for full forgiveness, could you then opt out of that, withdraw your forgiveness application, and use the 24-week time frame to have more time to spend it on payroll or other allowed expenses? Which is the biggest advantage of the 24-week, is that you have more of the loan can be spent on payroll and to receive full forgiveness. You have longer time. So yeah, that's the key in that. So, just something to keep in mind. I did cover the other night that Treasury and the SBA are now going to announce the names of businesses, addresses, their industry codes, zip codes, business type, and loan ranges for PPP loans. If your PPP loan was under $150,000, you will be part of aggregate data for your area, such as your zip code, your county had, 300 PPP loans under $150,000, that type of thing. But specific information will be of business name, addresses, industry code, zip codes, business type, demographic data, nonprofit information, job supported, and loan amount ranges will be given on loans for over $150,000. The actual loan amounts will not be given out, but they will be given in ranges. So the 5 ranges for loan amounts that will be listed next to your name will be $150,000 to $350,000, $350,000 to $1 million, $1 to $2 million, $2 to $5 million, and $5 to $10 million. That is the information that will be released by Treasury and the SBA. Yeah, so for loans below $150,000, totals will be released, aggregated by zip code, industry, business type, and various demographic categories. But if you have not yet gotten a PPP, you are running out of time. We got 8 days here, people, to get your approval in. 8 days on the PPP to get your approval in. And if you have payroll, if you had income, and you are a Schedule C only worker, and you had income last year, you can get, this is money that you can get for your business, okay? Apply for it. If you're unsure, we can talk about it, but get the application in first. I'm happy to talk about it, but get the application because time is of the essence, okay? Time is absolutely of the essence. We are running out 8 days, so get it in. So that we can get that in and we can worry about whether you take it once the application is in. Just email me, Neil, Neil at ECIstores.com. Neil at ECIstores.com is where you email me with your questions. Be sure to include your phone number. I am pretty certain I'm going to be caught up on calls this week. I am feeling pretty saucy that I'm going to get caught up this week with where things are. I think I'm going to be in good shape until the actual forgiveness applications start getting accepted. Yeah, so, I mean, they're going to know if it's public record, Suki, if you got a SBA, if you got a PPP. That's the whole argument. And if your PPP was over $150,000. They're really doing it to root out the people that got millions and everything else, but there's always the looky-loos that'll want to know. And big whoop, you know. This is about survival. It's about getting to the other side, and this is an unprecedented thing we're all going through. So in my general feeling is big whoop. Some of the loans, you know, for individual businesses, sole proprietors, 1099 contractors, you're giving out people's real income, and so that's a little bit rude, but ultimately, again, you can't be the best in business if you're not still in business. So I think survival aspect is more important than all of that. I have been to your store, not when you were there, Suki, but I've been there, so I need to come back to play now. I do get out your way on a semi-regular basis before this happened. So I will come out and see you again, Suki, to your store, now that it's your store. I was there last when it was still Cynthia's store. And in what seems like a world ago. It was only last year. Only last year I was there. One late night through Texas. One late night driving through Texas, which I've done many a night. But all these videos, all the information I talk about here, they are posted to narts.org/resalestrong. Narts.org/resalestrong is where you can find all the resources I talk about. These videos are even there, and the links to the YouTube channel, You're Not Alone Running This Store, are all there for everyone, not just for resale stores. It's about getting everyone in business to the other side. We're here first and foremost for resale, but more importantly than anything is getting everybody, your friends, your neighbors, your community, across to the other side. And I have talked and worked with so many businesses of so many different types, I can't even make a list. At some point we may have to make a list. My peanut gallery, I'll have to make a list of all the businesses I talked to during this on a one-on-one basis, because it's just, and that's been incredibly gratifying. But I just want to get everybody over to the other side, and that is what is so important to survival, and that's part of the NART's upcoming virtual conference, is making the best you. And if you have not registered for the NART's virtual conference, what are you waiting for? August 3rd is coming up here, people. Fast and furious. Make sure you get registered. It's only $199 for the first person, $99 for the next. Okay, we are going to get everybody to the other side. Even Marianne's going to the other side, her and her team. Marianne, I did like in Little Missy's pile that there was a UPS envelope. What, your husband didn't have anything else? Okay, I saw a UPS overnight envelope. I think he just used what he had for her card. But I digress. But we'll get everybody to the other side. I am here live, every night at more 8 than ish. Every night, Eastern. And that's where you catch this live in the NART's private Facebook group. Every night. Every night we start with the Good Morning, Good Night book. I own one of 2 copies of this. Kitty's got the other one. Kitty's got the other book. Good morning, good night. Tonight we're on page 128. Good morning. Your worst fears about yourself only need a drop of attention and sunlight to grow quick and wreck your whole shit. Clear away those weeds. Take time to harvest your strengths, your joys. Water and sunlight to the best in you. Good night. Doubts may grow as shadows loom when you're alone with your thoughts. Music, art, pics of the ones you love in the darkest corners. Harvest the fruits of your daydreams and rest. Water and sunlight to the best in you. I am Neil Abramson. I do like a good wedding, a bar mitzvah, quite honestly, anything that's a good party. I'll be back here again tomorrow at more 8 than ish Eastern, live in the NART's private Facebook group. Until then, know that you and you, but most especially you, yes, I'm pointing at you, I'm pointing at you, are not alone running this store. I will see you all tomorrow night, everybody. Have a great night.